Hi, it's Katie Mackenzie, mortgage professional, TMG The Mortgage Group, and your host of I Love Vancouver Real Estate. We're back again with Agent Carter,
Hello.
Karen Carter from Remax. She loves interviewing me, so we thought we'd do a couple episodes, and today we're going to talk all about documents. So when you are buying a home, selling a home, what documents mostly are required, generally are required, why they might be important, how to get them back and forth to the people that need them, and so that we can use this link to share with other people who are looking to gather documents to even start that conversation with either their mortgage broker or their realtor. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'll let you start by asking me what do you want to know?
Number one question I get from people who are starting to look to buy a property is, what should I expect? And the first thing I say is speak to your mortgage person and get them everything you need before you take the next step. Because they don't realize if they don't have all the documents in a row, they can actually, unfortunately, delay their process. And when you find that perfect home and you can't buy it because you're actually not ready, there's nothing more disappointing. So if I'm sending Jane to you to actually get her first pre-approval, what are you looking for?
Well, I always start with their ID. So we have to confirm by law that we are dealing with the person that is being presented to us. So ID, I always ask for a full and complete application. So I have my application on my website, mackenziemortgage.com. And then I also send forward an authorization form, which allows me to pull their credit file. So that would only be pulled once we've met in person and I've seen and verified that ID. But the main things that they'll need to start to gather are your basics, really. So income verification. So where are you working? Are you employed or are you self-employed? So generally speaking, for the majority of clients, if they're employed, it's a pay stub and a letter of employment. But a recent pay stub and a recent letter of employment.
What is defined as recent?
Yeah, so it depends on the lender, but generally speaking, your most recent pay stub has to be within the last 60 days. And the letter of employment, generally saying 30 to 60 days. The lender will also call. Right. So they will call for that verification because you may have gotten the letter and quit your job the following day. So
here's a question then. If I write an offer on November 1st and you have verified this document that I had, say, from October 20th, but I'm not completing till December 20th, will they want a new letter of employment, a new verification of income?
They may. If they call and they can't confirm that you're still employed, all the variables by which you applied for that mortgage must still be in place up to and including funding.
Okay.
What you do on the next day is up to you, but stay where you are. Don't quit your job until the mortgage has funded, because yes, all those variables in your commitment must be adhered to until the mortgage has funded. Yeah.
So when you mention identification, what kind of identification is acceptable?
Oh, yeah. So government issued. So driver's license, health card, a SIN card, although there are regulations around photocopying of a SIN card. So if you do have issues around offering your SIN number and or a SIN card as ID, in fact, they don't actually issue cards anymore. It's a piece of paper. You know, you do have rights around that. A passport, permanent resident card. There are other ways, I won't go into them here for the sense of time, but there are other ways to identify an individual. You know, some people who come into the country, refugees, where their passports are taken, they're given other documents that can be used as verification. So check with what you have with your mortgage provider.
Perfect.
Yeah. Back to the income, if you're self-employed, it's usually 2 years notice of assessments. If you have income taxes owing on your most recent, also confirmation that those are paid. If they're not paid and that's why you're coming in for a refinance, that discussion can occur. And the corresponding 2 years T1 generals with your notice of assessments. So you may be stating, you know, I make $100,000 a year business for self, and some of that is actual capital gains from sale of properties, so that can't be included, which is why we ask for the T1 generals.
Got it.
Because it'll allow us to see if there is any other income being included in that total income. there. There are a number of other income sources such as rental income, investment income, child tax credits, spousal support, child support, and verification of those all depends on how long they've been in place, if there are future payments to be paid, separation agreements, if you're just in the process of coming to terms of an agreement. So those would be client specific, but those are all other incomes that can be included. That list does not exhaust, of course, all other sources of income, but those are the common ones that we see. Down payment verification. So most lenders will ask that you've got a 90-day history of your down payment.
Right.
Now, depending on your application, the lender, the mortgage type, there's a number of ways to create a down payment. So typically it's from your own assets, savings. So a 90-day history of your savings account. If you have a recent deposit, suddenly there's a $50,000 deposit into your account, they will ask for the source of funds for that amount.
Right.
So sometimes people will move, from their sole account savings into their joint account savings and then into the checking account to buy the draft. So we trace it all the way back. You might have funds in another country, like my wealth over in Australia. I've wired my money over. Well, we follow the savings account statements back from your Australian bank account. Same thing. If it's a gift letter, because you're receiving a gift from parents or immediate family members, we'll ask that a gift letter is signed and confirmation of deposit of the funds into your account. Something to clarify there too is if the mortgage is in, say, my name, the account must be in my name.
Right.
If the mortgage is in John and Susan's names, then they have to have a joint account to which those monies are deposited. So they may end up having to open their own very first joint account together. So that's something to check with your lender as well on the specifics of which mortgage is being provided.
Got it.
Because that can get, people have to rush into a bank to open a joint account the morning before the mortgage funds. Yeah.
No stress there.
No. Or, as we've talked about, RSP. So under the home buyer's plan, you can redeem up to $25,000 from your RSP. Really important here is timing. So speak to your bank, your financial advisor, whomever holds the RSP as to how long it'll take you to get the money. Because,
That is a question I get asked often, people saying, well, I want to buy in the next 3 months. Should I pull my RSPs out now?
Maybe, maybe not. So how is the RSP invested, right? Is it in something that's locked in where you can earn a little bit more? Or is it in something like an equity fund or stocks where it fluctuates a lot?
Right.
So it's really a question for your financial advisor, and I do have a personal financial planning designation. So it's client specific. So what's their risk tolerance? Do they want to let it roll and see if they can make a few more bucks until closing? Maybe that's not the best advice either. Do they have enough today for what they need for closing?
Right.
You might want to activate that sell button and get it out. Typically, all you will need is your contract of purchase. So yes, you do need a contract. And you'll complete a form that's required and submitted to the government so that they know you're withdrawing it underneath that home buyer's plan. It can take a few days for something to settle out. So as an example, mutual funds, if you sell them today, well, we're past the 1 o'clock cutoff time for the market, and it'll be trade date as of tomorrow, plus another 3 days. So you don't want to be doing it too close to closing.
Right.
I always say sooner rather than later is best. Does that encompass all decision-making processes? Not necessarily. So talk to that person. You might be buying a year from now. Ask them today. What is the process? What would it look like? How fast can it happen? Would that change in any way, shape, or form between now and down the road?
And that's a massive question because I have a lot of people who assume that once they make that phone call, the money's being transferred.
Well, or also, the problem can be when you're doing a subject removal, as you would know. The deposit amount that you've written on there that's due upon subject removal is due right then and there. You might not be closing for 6 months.
But that deposit is due.
And it can be quite significant depending on the purchase price. I've seen them $25,000. I've seen them $125,000 at plus. Generally, people don't realize, or they're not told, hey, is that amount available for you today? Or if you're going in, and I cringe when I say this, subject free.
No, don't.
That don't is my recommendation. But if you are, for some reason, that amount is due and payable right then and there. Immediately. You have to have that draft.
With the offer.
So call the financial advisor, call the bank, have that discussion early. As I say with everything, talk to all these different people that help you along the way. But talking about timelines is a good rule of thumb for every lender is that they will want documents, all documents. So from the client to me within 10 business days of funding, or they can cancel their commitment to provide you a mortgage.
Right.
So 10 business days. So take out the weekends, take out the holidays. Because this happened.
And what happened if your personal contact at the bank happens to have a 3-day vacation in the middle of there?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's why I say in advance, up front, get all these questions answered. It's on my checklist. I always say straight up front, if it is coming from the RSP, hang up with me, call your advisor now. Because you need to know before you go in and make this offer. So 10 business days minimum or the mortgage is out. So those are my main documents. What I always say too is, what is there that you're not thinking of to provide me information on? So a listing of all of your debt payments, everything that you pay monthly. I'll pull your credit bureau and it's going to tell me some things. It may not tell me anything very recent that a lender might find out if they pull your credit bureau again right before funding.
Right.
Also, what it won't show is if you're paying child support, spousal support. So any agreements that you have, even if that document is 10 years old, it's still may be valid and in place. So dig it up, blow the dust off it. I hate bringing exes back into the mortgage conversation, but
you have to.
I have to. Yeah. If you've got a private loan with somebody, bring that forward, because if by chance that comes forward and I hear of it, I have to disclose it to the lender. So, any new toys, you've gone and bought a new snowmobile, right? Whistler Mountain's open, Yahoo, let's go buy a new toy. Again, it hasn't shown up. It might not show up for 6 months onto your credit bureau, but what if it shows up month 1? Same idea. And then other documents are what you would provide as a realtor, the property.
And there's a whole list there. Do you want to go into that now, or is that round 2?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So let me ask you, what documents are you obtaining for the property that you typically then, if your client is engaging me as a mortgage broker, be providing to me?
So from the buying end is where I'm taking this from. We will go with the very basics. Obviously, once we have an accepted offer, I'm sending to you the actual accepted offer so that you can start the process. Along with that, I am sending a copy of the multiple listings services information sheet, which will give you a lot of details about the property itself. Depending if it's a strata title or whether it's actually not strata, it varies from this point on. But the title search will always be included. The property disclosure statement will always be included. Then we get into things like strata minutes, AGMs, special general meetings. We are looking for engineering reports and depreciation reports. We're going into insurance certificates to make sure the insurance is the complex is accurate and up to date. We are looking for strata plans to verify square footage of the property. There is a lot of paperwork that gets triggered once you have an accepted offer. And I've been doing this long enough that it's like, okay, we've got 72 pieces of paper and I know the mortgage broker needs these 5. Here, I'm sending these to your mortgage broker. But you as the buyer still needs to read all 72. And that is where it gets interesting, is how often I have people saying, well, I've sent them to my financial planner and I've sent them to my mortgage broker. Why do I have to read them? You're about to invest hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. You need to know what you're investing in.
Correct.
And as much as the mortgage broker, the financial planner, and the realtor can help you understand it, we can only respond to the questions you have. We can't advise you of what the risk is if you don't understand at least the key components of the documents. So, for example, depreciation report's been done on a building. Great, I can sit there and analyze it for myself and I know how I view it. But I don't know what your reaction to it is, and I don't know what questions you're going to have until you're willing to actually read it and sit down with me and say, okay, I don't understand what this means. Great. Now I can educate you on something you don't know yet. But if I don't know you don't know something, I can't help you. So spending the time to read the documents yourself is incredibly important. And I refuse to actually let a client do a subject removal without actually sitting down and discussing what they've read, what they understand, and what questions they have. Because to proceed with any kind of subject removal and proceed with a purchase when you don't know what you're buying is basically financial suicide in my mind.
I get a lot of people that say, can I forward them to you? Well, yes, because I need them for the lender. However, when I read them, I'm reading from a lender perspective of what's ringing bells.
Yeah.
Is it the zoning? It's a zoning where we only have a lender that won't approve you. Or, is it over your pre-approved amount? Is it a leaky condo? Yeah. Is it a former grow up? I'm looking for the red flags for the lender.
Yes.
And I can't provide, same as you, an opinion on a building because it's not my purchase.
Correct.
I can say the lender may or may not like this. This is a question. Be prepared that they might decline the building for financing based on X or Y. But, I've read through these documents for 17 years and they never get easier to read.
No.
I know. So, yeah, they do take time to read. And I think the messaging for clients should be take the time. Take a day off work if you're buying a home and read them. Go through the questions, sit there
and create your list of questions in one compact list and then sit down with your realtor and discuss them.
Yeah.
Sending text saying, what does this mean? And run off conversations.
Yes.
Doesn't help.
Yes.
You need to have a full concept. So the Coles Notes, for those of us who are over 25, Coles Notes or a little book that actually gave you the short version of what was happening.
Yeah.
But that's what you need to put together is the list of questions so you can sit down with your realtor and hopefully they'll be able to answer the questions or dig further if there's more digging required to answer your questions.
Yeah. I think messaging too to complete for today on documents is that if we're asking for something from you, it is required to complete the file. Everything that's provided, of course, is confidential, bound by Privacy Acts. We don't send stuff to the government. People get worried that it goes into this black hole of document. It goes confidentially from you to either me or to Karen and into the file for the purposes of securing your purchase and securing the financing, and that's it.
And that's a good point as well. As a realtor, I have a fiduciary duty to protect my client's interest. I am legally bound.
Correct.
So if you are working with a realtor who respects your privacy, fabulous. If you have any qualms or questions about, is this person actually representing me? Are they protecting my best interest? You're working with the wrong person. Financial planner, mortgage broker, realtor, any professional.
Correct.
Has to be protecting you.
Absolutely. So if you do have any questions about what documents you do have alternate sources of income, want to know, or have been told, no, you can't get approved because you have an alternate source of income, reach out to us. If you want to know, generally, what is a contract? What does it look like? What is a depreciation report? I've never seen one. How does that differ from an inspection? What is an MLS, multiple listing services sheet look like? We're happy to answer any of all of those questions if it helps you attain your goal of home ownership. So thank you once again for coming in and podcasting with us today. We've had more than our fair share of coffee and it's 4 p.m, so I might be up all night, but we're drumming up some great ideas and hope that you see value in the conversations that we're having on the podcast and that you continue to listen. So thank you once again. It's Katie Mackenzie, mortgage broker with TMG The Mortgage Group and your host of I Love Vancouver Real Estate.